Just going over some old things here. Pictures of my dad in Vietnam. They're all in uniforms and looks like they're having a good time out back. Some of my old photos here. What's this one? I think it's my old platoon photo. That's me right there. Yeah, I guess you could say I was born into a military family, Marine Corps family. Went in the Marine Corps fairly young myself as a 17-year-old. Made a lot of rank fast. I think I had a propensity for order and intensity, and some of you who've been in classes before kind of know that sort of thing, but I was one of these sort of guys. Got my old NCO sword here, complete with the Star of David. Yep, you could say that I had a real bad case of the military, the Marine Corps in particular. These are some of my old platoon flags. When a drill instructor has been regarded by his troops as someone that really contributed to their lives, they give them the platoon flag. So for every platoon that I led, I kept being the one that got the flags. It's this one here. Charlie Company, 3rd Platoon, 118th. Captain Sullivan, Staff Sergeant Harris, and Sergeant West. You could say those were the days, but I want to tell you a story. There was one morning that I had come into the restroom, the washroom, at my new college. The college was a Christian college. You see, I had finished 4 years in the Marines, and I had had an experience, a spiritual experience that made sense to me to forsake my 30-year plan and not continue in the family business, but to make sense of some spiritual impulses which were happening in me. So this first week of college, Southeastern University college campus, I go into the open restroom, and it's one of those community restrooms with 9 sinks all around and one long mirror and lots of men coming and going, showers in the back room, that sort of a thing. It's a big shared space and lots of rooms on the hallway. And I remember that first morning that I'm there grooming myself when a fella comes in with long flowing blonde hair like Fabio. And in that moment I became aware of some prejudices that I didn't know were there. You see, given the family that I grew up in, everybody that I had met up until that time and becoming a 22, 23-year-old had very short hair. And I had some associations around men with long hair that were unfair to the man that I had not even yet met. But when he took out a blow dryer and began blowing this blonde hair, all of these Marine Corps instincts inside of me saying there's something wrong with this picture. And I realized I had a ready reservoir of prejudices and assessments and ways of thinking about the world, about his status based on where I was coming from. And I had to make a decision. A voice inside of me softened me in that moment and said, are you going to use the standards of another life and another time in order to achieve my purposes? There's a question in the book of Galatians that says, shall you continue in the flesh what was began in the spirit? Paul says it a different way. In the 2nd chapter of Timothy, he says, when a person goes into the military, when they're a soldier, they don't concern themselves with what they're going to eat or what they're going to wear. They say basically the military provides all that stuff for them. Instead, they keep discipline and they don't bother themselves with civilian affairs. What point are you trying to make, Russ, with all this storytelling? Friends, my choice that Saturday morning as I entered into this new cultural space, this space which wasn't about short hairs and bars, stars, and stripes. It was a space where your spiritual power, your spiritual development became your base of authority and way of being in the world. And that fella who had come to ministry college, Bible college, had every reason to be there that I did. I'm the one, however, who needed rescuing from my thinking. You see, I thought that I could walk through the world bringing the status and criteria of another cultural context and how status would be defined in another context. Or I had to make a choice. Would something else be a ruling factor as I went forward? And I realized that a call was emerging in me that was stronger than the call of my family or the status that came to me from some early acceleration patterns. A voice inside of me was driving me to think about the world, to think about the globe, to think beyond myself, beyond my neighborhood, beyond my Judea, my Samaria, to the uttermost parts of the world. And those places in the text which require me to think about people not like me, people in distant places, people without, people with great wealth and great poverty because of it. I found that a calling was beginning to overtake the distractions of status. In this first module, you are reading through leadership theory. You're getting one professor's view, Professor Banks. You're getting one person's view on how leadership theory needs to be looked at or reviewed with a Christian lens. Throughout those studies, you'll see that status and even the aspiration of vision are some of the markers that get used to determine whether someone's credible for what they're called to. But you're in a class that's about identity, about your spiritual identity. And I want to at least raise the question that as you begin to scan the text of Scripture, that the unchallenged concept of status, stars, bars, stripes, corner offices, having the right title, being tall enough, all of these external things that we might use for status to stabilize ourselves and to use as power bases, we'll find that the spiritual life demands a whole different way of approaching and developing a power base, where you forsake titles, where you don't need the corner office. They can use that for the storage room, where you're comfortable with obscurity and being the team member than the team leader, or listener rather than all the talking. We're going to spend some time talking about the dilemma between status and calling, the seductions that status will have for you over a lifetime, as they did throughout the text of Scripture for so many, and how calling makes the difference when everything around you is falling. I look forward to learning with you and talking through some of these things with you.